Influencer seeding, what is it, who should do it, how to do it, coming up.
Hello from Detroit. I'm Brad.
I'm Joel.
And we are excited to have you with us here today. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. If you haven't yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you're listening on podcast, and follow us on YouTube if you think we've earned the subscription. All right. You can decide that at the end. But for now, we want to dive into a topic that a lot of people are talking about now, which is influencer seeding. So as a starting point, Joel, what the heck is influencer seeding?
Very, very simply, you're a company, you have a product, and you send that product to various influencers that you have identified. No strings attached, no requests, no talking points, obviously no financial transaction. And you basically are just saying, hey, if you like it, and talk about it, that's great. If not, that's cool too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like with this approach, right? I mean, First, there's zero costs that you're actually paying the creators. In theory, only creators who like the product are going to actually do anything.
Self-selecting audience.
Right. Yeah, there's two levels of self-selection, right?
Yep.
One is only those that are interested will say, yes, send me the product. And then of those who you send it to, only those who like the product, presumably, are going to talk about it. Now, you could go south with that in terms of the creator could hate your product and go off on it, but most probably wouldn't do that.
Right. Right. So, all right, who should do it? Let's start. Second point. Who should do it? Why? What are the brands that would really benefit most from influencer seeding?
Yeah, I think to do influencer seeding, you want to be an early stage brand because ultimately the juice has to be worth the squeeze, right? The creators that are going to say yes to this are not the creators that, as an influencer agency, most of our brand partners are working with, right? So these are small, less than 5,000 followers or subscribers or views per piece of content that's getting pushed out. So if that's appealing to you to be able to connect with these smaller creators and win with like the nickels and dimes, then by all means you should do that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Every brand has been at that stage where you have to fight, scratch, and claw for that first and second and third customer. So if you're a brand in that spot, then by all means go for it. Just know that it takes, and this gets into some of the cons, right? But it takes a lot of time. But if you're a brand at an early stage and you think your story would be told very well by a creator, then there's no reason not to go forward. What else would you say is a reason that you'd want to do influencer seeding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a way to actually test the influencer space and whether it works. And you can see this if you seed it to 1,000 different small scale creators. You're small enough that you don't have a ton of ad spend. You see a lift, like, okay, this works. And there's something really beneficial because as you get bigger and you've got multiple marketing channels, it's really difficult to figure out the noise. And like famously, most brands have 50% of their traffic, sales, et cetera, come from they don't know where. And so there's this constant battle between the various channels to say this portion of that's ours, this portion is that. Well, you do it early on enough, and you can tell like, no, this is what the lift is, and you can actually quantify it, and then very reasonably carry that through as you grow.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that I love about this too is that if you're an early stage brand, or shoot, even if you're an established brand, if you're seeding to a lot of creators, they're explaining your product to their followers in a way that you may not have thought about. So when you're engaging with a lot of really smart, creative people, and they're thinking about how to tell your brand story, I mean, that's a great cheat code to say, well, how do we tell our brand story? Especially for early stage companies, like it's hard to know that. So I think that's something that's really cool about it. But
yeah, the other thing I would say, and this has become increasingly true, right? Let's say you have a product category that is highly competitive, whatever it is, right? Bigger brands have already taken all of the good influencers right now. So if you're going to, as you grow, it's not like, oh, as soon as I grow, then I will be able to do XYZ influencer. No, they're probably already taken. They probably already have a brand that you're working with. You need to start building your own community of smaller influencers. And as they grow, you get to grow with them. But there's a land grab with an influencer right now. And frankly, the brands that are not here already are going to be really having trouble 3 years from now. because the space is just going to grow. It's going to be an ever larger part of everyone's, entire marketing, full funnel marketing channel, etc. Okay. So that's who should do it. That's why they ought to do it. It can be good. It has pitfalls.
It does.
You got one?
It does. Yeah.
Right. What's a pitfall?
I'll start with an obvious one, and this one doesn't get my hackles up like one we'll talk about in a minute. But the reality is, it takes a lot of time, and it is not scalable, right? I mean,
Right.
in order to reach out to creators, sure, you can do it on DM, you can do it over email. It really doesn't matter. But you got to reach out to the individual creators one-on-one. You got to ask them for their address. You got to then ship the product, which isn't trivial, and you got to then follow up with them to either make sure they got it. And you don't want to be a pest since it's free, but you want to continue to engage with the creators. And then you have to try to find some way to monitor and track. And if you're just sending it out for free to see, like, hey, who's posting and who's not. So there's just a lot of manual labor that's associated with this. And for anyone, our most valuable resources is your time, especially if you're an early stage company. Like it can be tough to do that. So great work for an intern to be able to do, just to roll up your sleeves and make things happen. So that's for sure one of the negatives, I think, associated with it.
Yeah, look, it's a shotgun approach. There is no guaranteed content. You are taking a risk, and if you've got the time to hustle, because it very much is a hustle, might be worthwhile. But just, you're spending very limited resources on something that you have zero guarantee that it actually is going to do anything.
Yeah.
All right. One last one, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, and this is the one that really gets under my skin about this, is that it is for a lot of brands, the way they do it is they'll send it out for free, and the creators will post about it, and then they'll be like, oh, we found now the creators that work well for us. And the thinking is, well, we know the creators like it, and we can pay them less than market rates to be able to push out more content for us. And so that aspect of things is really misleading to me, right? It's like, it's one thing if you don't have the funds, or you're not a spot, or you just want to see if people will do it for free. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But once you see creators who have performed well, pay them what they're worth, right? Like,
Absolutely.
You don't want to get the lowest rate. That's fool's gold. That's short-term thinking. You want to pay creators what they're worth, and they're going to give more to you back if they feel like you're a valued partner, right? And so this idea, especially with smaller creators who may not know they're worth as much, to try to pay them below market or next to nothing, you're fundamentally misleading creators. Yeah. And that's not a good way to build anything.
Burn your own reputation before you build it within the creator community. All right, that's our advice. Thanks for hanging out. So long from Detroit. Follow us on social. We will see you next time.